This is the Greg Bedard Patriots Podcast with Nick Cattles.
What'd you see, Greg, when you're watching Drake on the film and you're looking at this from 30,000 feet? Because we could sit there and I'm sure you're going to talk about some of the things that Drake needs to improve on. I've touched on a few of those things at Locked On Patriots. But overall, is Drake more of a project in year two than some people or most people might have thought?
Yes, I think that's quite evident at this point. And I think that especially the switch to a new system in year two, people got to remember, and I'm sure there will be comparisons to like what J.J. McCarthy did last night, and that's fine. I mean, even though the Vikings are a lot more talented, have a lot more continuity. I mean, but, you know, with just as far as Drake Maye goes, he's still a rookie. This is like his 10th start in the league. This was the first time he started a season opener in the National Football League. And you might want your quarterback to, hit quicker and show the it factor. And we got a guy like, and I understand that. It's just like, not everybody's the same. I mean, I'm going to use the Josh Allen comparison, a lot because, and I'm not saying he's going to be Josh Allen. I don't know. But, Josh Allen, his rookie year, he was in the bones of this offense with Brian Daboll. He was his offensive coordinator in 2018. He was 5-6. He didn't even complete 53% of his passes. He had 12 interceptions, 10 touchdowns. So that's where Josh Allen started from. I would say Drake's starting at a better place. And, if he was just a little bit more accurate in this game, had like another 4 or 5 completions, Demario Douglas doesn't drop a ball right in his hands, all of a sudden we're talking about, well, he's like completing like 75% of his passes. And now look, not a lot of big plays. And we had the turnover and you had the fumble and almost another fumble. And, I understand all that, but where Drake Maye is right now, I think he just turned 23. I'm sure there are people who'd be like, I don't want to hear about the young quarterback thing anymore. But going into a new system in year two, to me, I look at him as he is a rookie quarterback. And he's going to need a lot of things around him, pass protection, a running game to help him get on his feet and get going. But I'm not dismayed. I think a lot of what we saw on Drake was the same stuff we saw in the preseason that I brought up, the stuff that I'm concerned with. But in terms of what you're talking about, is he more of a project than I think a lot of Patriots fans want to believe? Yes, I think that is the case.
What doesn't help Drake is that if you look at the class he's a part of, you've got Jaden Daniels, who had the season he had last year, and you got Michael Penix, who looked good against Tampa, looked pretty good at the end of last season. And you mentioned J.J. McCarthy in the second half last night. But when you look at Penix and Daniels, we have to make sure that everybody understands those guys are much more mature from a football standpoint than Drake is. Like, Drake was the young guy of the bunch to go along with JJ. They were the young guys of the bunch, did not play a ton in college. They also had to deal with the COVID season, lost a season of high school football. It's going to sound like excuses, but it's not. It's, when you look at quarterbacks, Alex Barth of 98.5 has done a really good job of this. He's kind of mapped out some of the young quarterbacks in the league, and he will argue that it takes usually about a year and a half, and it's usually halfway through that second season in the NFL where you start to really see who a guy is going to become. And we're not there yet. I mean, we're not there yet. So with the idea of the new scheme and, a lot of the different players around him, I'm not shocked that Drake wasn't awesome on Sunday. And I think some of the little things, Greg, I want to ask you about, some of the things that I noticed, he's still leaving the pocket at times way too early. He's still a little bit too jittery. He's still spraying the football on some of these easy throws. There was a Hunter Henry throw on first down when Henry is wide open, easy completion to move the chains. He misses him, ends up being a 3-and-out. So there's some of those inaccuracies, some of the sloppiness with the footwork and kind of just the moving around the pocket presence, awareness, wanting to scramble. Did you see the same thing? And some of the other, maybe you saw other little things about his play on Sunday that you say they're just not there yet.
Yeah, it's just it's similar to what we talked about in the wake of the Vikings preseason game, where a lot of people weren't alarmed. They thought I was overreacting, and I started talking about I just don't know how much of a perfectionist Drake is at this point, and I'm going to assume he's going to get there at some point. I just don't see it in his game right now in terms of taking the off season. Like I'm going to probably read up on this more, but I've been last night, all of a sudden I got down a rabbit hole looking at like stuff about Josh Allen and what he does in the off season and things like that. And, he's worked a ton with Jordan Palmer every off season. And, and Jordan Palmer has talked about how that Josh Allen is a mechanical freak, like even about his golf swing. Like he wants to analyze everything and like he's always getting better. I don't know. I'm going to ask more questions about this going forward. I don't know if that's Drake Maye. I don't see that in his game. I don't see development of his motion. I still have a lot of issues with that. Just little things like you said, I mean, the first throw to Pop Douglas, just pitter patter of the feet, moving his feet. It's the same stuff he was doing at North Carolina when he would miss easy passes. There's also like little things like play fakes that he's gonna have to get better at. And I'm still surprised, like being with Jacoby Myers last year, Josh Dobbs this year, those guys are really good play fakers. And it can really help you. And I'm surprised Drake hasn't noticed that. I mean, I notice it in practice, like when Drake goes out there and basically, especially in the Patriots practices, each quarterback will run like the same set of plays. And so Drake will go out there and then Josh Dobbs will go out there. And Josh will run this really good play fake. And all of a sudden the guy's like wide open. And Drake, you see it, like some of his play fakes aren't very good. Some of his RPO fakes the other day, riding the mesh a little bit longer before, going with the ball. Now, all this stuff is very new to him. And I think that's really where I'm at, that I think, the footwork stuff, I think he's going to have to work on that in general. And I know they work on it in practice and they run the drills, but he's also, the more he gets into game action in this system, then goes back and watches the film and he sees some of the things that Josh is trying to do in terms of like 2-man routes. There were a lot of those where Hunter Henry's going underneath and maybe Pop Douglas or Steph Diggs is going, on the high concept. And, Drake, as part of this offense, if they're in zone, you're reading this linebacker or safety, and whichever way he points, then you rip it to the other guy. And I think he just doesn't trust it yet. I don't blame him for that. I just like these guys just don't have enough live reps. Drake doesn't have enough live reps in this offense to trust it. And when you trust it, then your feet start to quiet. And so that's what I saw on Sunday. I didn't see a guy whose mind is too cluttered, that this is too advanced for him. There's too much on his plate. I didn't see that. I just saw a player who hasn't been in that situation before with, really running scheme, live guys who can tackle you, like all that stuff. And I just think he was a little jittery, but I think that's just a lack of reps than who we might inherently be.
You talk about the mechanics, you talk about Josh Allen. I thought on Sunday Night Football, they spent a good amount of time talking about Allen and the corrections he's made, and Chris Collinsworth broke it down. And I got to tell you, I had the same thoughts that you had. I'm asking myself the same questions of like, have we really seen that much of a change? Now, of course, Allen has had years to work on his mechanics, and he continuously works on them. And we know that Brady was the same. I mean, Brady was just maniacal when it came to working on making his arm stronger and his mechanics and all the little things Brady would do. And you do wonder, like, because so far you don't see the dramatic change with Maye.